G'day there mate, it's your boy I Read Reddit, back at it again with some more entitled parent stories. Sit back, relax and enjoy the ride fellas, I think you'll like these ones. Our first story comes from user draakdorei, titled, Entitled Mother Tries to Force Son into Advanced Class, Loses Arm. I was not expecting to find another one, especially since this is the first time I've ever seen this mother since her teenage boy started classes with us. This happened last night, so it's still fairly fresh, and the entitled mother kept her arm technically, though lost use of it. The conversation is a mix of eavesdropping and phone tag, cobbled from others nearby. Context. I've been practicing martial arts for a little over 20 years now, with the last 2 years being solely at this dojo because my sensei closed his down to join this group. The dojo is a mixed martial arts, technically it is, not MMA like TV. One with 5 instructors and owners teaching different disciplines. There are 2 class types at this place. Self-defense classes centered around low power contact with others, and an 18+ private full power contact class with others that rotates based on the weekday. There's also a discount for military and police for the 18+ class, so we do get a few military and police people come by, usually in their civvies. Our wonderful cast: John, veteran police officer, taking the Kung Fu class. Sensei Chris, Kung Fu instructor. Has PTSD? Do not touch Sensei Chris. Don't do it. Don't touch Sensei Chris. Alyssa, office manager, does not bend or break rules. Me, Draak, assistant instructor for self-defense classes. Entitled mother, who's Ryan's mother, unable to understand that rules are there for a reason. And Ryan, the teenager under 18, who understands rules and legal requirements. On to the story. So we finished the self-defense class, and we were getting ready to start the Kung Fu class. There's a 15-minute buffer between classes for sign-ups and to clear the mats. Ryan was talking with Sensei Chris and waiting on his mother to pick him up. From what I could overhear as I was getting ready, he was talking about joining the Kung Fu class. Sensei Chris was listing out the reasons why he couldn't join before 18 years old. Waivers, legal signatures, etc., when his entitled mother walked through the door and joined the conversation in the lobby. Excuse me? What do you mean Ryan can't join your Kung Fu class? He's a perfectly capable student. Yes, he is, but there are legal documents that require him to be over 18 to sign off on. Just give them to me. I'll sign them for him. Ryan, go get ready for your class. No, he needs to be over 18 before joining. Ryan, stay. Don't tell me what to do. Ryan, go join the class. Ryan, we'll see you back on Monday. Now, ma'am, you can talk with Alyssa about making an appointment with another instructor to see if they will make an exception. At this point, Chris shifted past the entitled mother to start class. John and I have been watching and stretching, waiting for what we both knew was coming. No! You will make an exception for Ryan! Then she makes the biggest mistake of the night. She grabs Chris by the upper arm and pulls her backwards. Remember how I said Chris has PTSD and do not, under any circumstances, touch her? She was assaulted before she became an instructor, and it has made her hyper-reflexive when being touched without her consent. It took seconds for her reflex to kick in, and she is snaked out of the entitled mom's grab and had her arm in an arm break lock. It's here I should add that there are 3 words that we were told to not say in front of Chris. Tramp, jerk, and tramp again, and any form of them because it also triggers her. The entitled mother screams, "Let go of me, you psychotic jerk!" and then screams of pain. I look at John and he just shakes his head at me while giving me a look that said, "Not my jurisdiction, not my problem." The entitled mother is on the floor with her arm dangling from the elbow down, and Chris walks towards the back to start class, does not even turn back to look at the entitled mother. Ryan is on the phone with his father, explaining the situation, and Alyssa is calling for an ambulance. I was shocked and waiting for Chris to say something memorable like, "Get this trash off my mats." But instead, she just started class like normal. The local police department showed up and interviewed everyone there. The entitled mother was screaming, "Assault!" while being helped into the ambulance, and Ryan's father picked him up. My impression is that the police are going to call it self-defense, but we'll see what happens. No one was arrested that night, and I'm positive that the entitled mother will try to press charges and sue, so if I do get an update, I'll post back. Side note, the reason for the 18+ requirement is that students have to sign a waiver stating that they understand classes are full contact and injuries can and will happen. That doesn't mean that the waiver absolves the dojo of legal responsibility though, only serves as a warning to prospective students of what they're signing up for when they start the classes. So, that means that they can sue. Edit 1. As others have pointed out, self-defense ended at the arm lock, yes. The arm break is and likely will be considered assault. As the priority at the time was getting the entitled mother to a hospital, Chris was not detained, but this will likely change as the investigation continues. Our next story is by user DeCrazyGrill, titled, Entitled Mother Thinks I'm Threatening Her and the Entitled Kid, Demands I Give Her My Black Belt to Her Perfect Angel. Background info. I'm currently a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. My parents own a restaurant near my karate place, so I like to help my mum out in the restaurant after I finish my lesson, and I usually get a free meal out of it. Now, I'm not going to waste your time by telling you who me, entitled mother, and entitled kid is, but here are the roles you might not know. M for mum, KZ for waitress. Okay, let's start. So, it was a Tuesday at 6:30, so I'd go to the restaurant now with my grandmother. I got there, greeted everybody, and asked my dad for a meal. Then I went out to take customers to tables, and I asked whether they needed something or not. Enter entitled mother. I say to her, "Hello, do you need anything?" And she says, "Actually, yes. I wanted to ask you why you were messing around in this restaurant." Now, this restaurant's uniform was all black, and I was wearing the usual Taekwondo uniform with my belt. My parents don't mind, and neither did the customers and workers there. I say back to her, "Oh, ma'am, I'm not messing around. I'd just like to know whether you needed anything." And she says, "Yes, stop disturbing me and my son. A teenager like you messing in here? How disrespectful. Thinking I'm one of your friends and playing jokes on me?" I say back to her, "I'm not messing around. I'd just like to know whether you need anything." That's when a waitress notices me and says, "Ma'am, she doesn't have any of the required uniforms since she just got off her lesson, and she's volunteering to help here." And then they walk away. The entitled kid pipes up and says, "How strong are you? What belt do you have?" "Oh, I have a 2nd degree black belt, and I'm ready to get my 3rd degree in May." "How strong are you as a 2nd degree?" "Oh, I can do things most people can't, and I've been trained to have fast instincts. I can also kick and punch really hard." Now, I think I said it in a boastful way, because the entitled mother just blew up after I finished. At this point, the mother's livid, and she pipes up saying, "So you think you can beat us up? How dare you threaten us?" So I say back, "I'm sorry you thought I said it in such a boastful way, but I never meant to." "Teenagers these days, such liars." "Ma'am, I'm not lying. I'm sorry if you think I am." "Mommy, I want her black belt. And as a sorry to your rudeness, I'll be taking your belt off you." "Sorry, no? I've trained for 3 years to come this far. Each year costs $3,100, and $3,100 by 3, you've guessed it, is $9,300. Yeah, I'm pretty good at math. My parents really work hard to get that money, so no. Also, you can't get a replacement belt, but why don't you take your son there so he can start training?" I point at the place and I say, "Or I can get you a free drink, dessert, and salad if you want." "I don't care about how your parents worked so hard to get your money, or how you trained 3 years. You don't get a replacement belt. Just give my perfect little angel your belt. You can just train for another 3 years. I was shocked at this woman now. Apparently she doesn't care about anyone else other than her perfect little angel and herself. Also, she started raising her voice so people are starting to notice. And I can't believe that she literally ignored the part about free food. Who can reject free food? Meh, just a little interesting fact. I start to raise my voice a bit. "Well, you don't have the right to force me into giving your son the belt." "Wow, mommy, I want it." The entitled mother literally tries to slap me. But as I said, I've got fast instincts, so I block her. "This lady just tried to assault me." My mother comes over, and in Chinese, since we're Chinese, she says, "女儿，你做了什么?" This means, "What did you do?" in Chinese. I briefly explained about what happened in Chinese. And in English, she says, "Sorry ma'am, but my daughter said you tried to slap her, so she grabbed your hand as self-defense. She never assaulted you. My daughter cannot give you her black belt as she is training really hard for each year for a price." "I want to talk to the manager." Ma'am, I am the manager." The entitled mother slowly turns pale white like snow. I want to talk to your boss! Well, my husband's the boss, so let me see whether he believes his daughter and wife less or more than a customer. The entitled mother turns red as a tomato and suddenly storms out without paying. Note that she'd already had ordered a lobster, so we had to contact the cops about her. When we got there, she literally tried to kick me, but I blocked her along with a punch the police saw and didn't say anything, since it, again, was self-defense. They checked the cameras and found out what she said. I'm not in trouble, so it's a troublesome and happy day. P.S. I've had a lot of entitled parents experiences since I live in a rich town, but this was by far the most outrageous, at least to me. If y'all want more, I'll be more than happy to post. Smiley face. Our next post comes from number 31 type 0, titled, Entitled Aunt Tries to Pick the Locks on the Door to My Sister and I's Bedroom. So the cast are me, Sarah, my twin, Kevin, my service dog, my auntie, the woman who's dead to me, the entitled cousin, who's also dead to me, and the uncle, who's Sarah and I's uncle. Sorry for any errors in advance. My auntie came to spend the week with us while she was in town. As a result, this was by far the worst week of my life, so far. My auntie is the type of person who firmly believes that a guest basically owns everything, and the host should do everything in their power to accommodate the guest, regardless of any reason. But before anyone asks, no, my auntie didn't go crazy whenever we didn't give her something she or the cousin wanted. My auntie would either huff and mutter under her breath, or make it a point that everyone knew how unhappy she was by talking about it loudly on the phone. But my cousin, however, would act just like we murdered his firstborn. At first, everything was fine. Uncle explained the extensive ground rules that the auntie and cousin needed to follow, that I was mute and why I needed Kevin, along with how to differentiate between Sarah and I. We dye our hair differently. I'm not going into detail of the rules except for the major one, which is also that the cousin, and subsequently the auntie, took extreme issue with. Don't go into Sarah and my room, period. I know that the uncle went to great lengths to explain this rule and the importance of it. Why, you may ask? Because the auntie argued with my uncle about why the rule even existed, and my uncle ended up having to raise his voice, which quickly ended the argument altogether, finishing it with the threat of kicking the auntie and cousin out of the house if he so much as hears a hint about either of them trying to enter the room. Of course, Sarah and I quickly learned how seriously they took the rule. Now, the door to Sarah and I's room has 2 locks on it, a deadbolt lock and a doorknob lock. To those who may be wondering, the uncle had them installed as per Sarah and I's request, shortly after the uncle was granted full custody of us. Uncle, of course, has a key in case anything happens, but he respects Sarah and I's need for privacy, so he just calls for one of us if he needs us. For obvious reasons, neither the auntie nor cousin were given a key. For the first 2 days, there wasn't any issue. As usual, I would go straight to our room so neither of them could try to interact with me. But that didn't stop my cousin from incessantly knocking and asking to come in and play on our Xbox. Sarah would tell him no, but when she wasn't there, I'd just slide a note under the door which promptly said no. Cliché, yes. But neither Sarah nor I trusted our cousin or auntie with our cell numbers, so notes were the next best thing. The 3rd day, the auntie was waiting for Sarah and I to get home. Auntie says, "Your cousin wants to play on your game system." It's an Xbox. "So can you please let him in so that he can play? It'll only be a few hours. You can sit with him if you want." Sarah says, "Sorry, but he's not allowed inside, and neither are you, auntie. But he is allowed to play on the Wii. It's already hooked up to the TV in the living room. I think the controllers are next to the Wii itself." And my auntie says, "He thinks the games for it are too childish, and I agree. So, will you please let him in so that he can play? You two are working all day anyway, so it won't be a problem." I would like to point out that the only Wii games we have are Metroid Prime series and the Metroid Other M. For others who haven't played those games, they are far from childish. Sarah pointed that out, but the auntie wasn't having any of it. To her, games in general were all childish, and we should let him in to play or move the Xbox into the living room, an option that was simply out of the question. Sarah unlocked the door and had to actively block the auntie from trying to step inside while we went into our room. The auntie didn't like this, but when Sarah casually asked if I had texted the uncle that we got home safely, the auntie backed off in a huff. Yes, the auntie made a point not to mention anything whenever the uncle was around. According to Sarah, both the auntie and cousin never talked about our room when he was home. They'd mind their own business or make small talk with the uncle. They eventually stopped trying to talk to Sarah after she yelled at the cousin to leave her alone. The next day, Thursday, the uncle and Sarah had to go to the store for some things. I forget what it was. I didn't think much of it and decided to play on the Xbox. Around maybe 4 hours, I lose track of time when playing, after they left, I heard an odd scratching noise at the door. It wasn't Kevin because he was sitting next to me. I texted Sarah asking if she and the uncle were back home yet, but she replied saying they were still at the store, but would be home soon. By then the doorknob was shaking, and I heard the auntie telling the cousin to be careful, and you can't force the lock. As soon as I heard that, I texted Sarah what was going on, and Sarah's response surprised me. In text she said, "Get on that other game you play that says you died a lot and turn the volume up all the way, like the time when you first played it." She of course was talking about Dark Souls 3, and it took me a moment to understand what she meant. Then it clicked. When booting the game up, it'll show 2 companies and game engines, not sure what the brand names shown are, or something along those lines. Then it'll play loud choir-like music before showing the main menu. Basically, when I first got the game, my ears were ringing for almost 30 minutes, and the uncle was swearing every other word while yelling to turn the volume down. Since then, I've had the TV muted and slowly turned the volume up until it's at a comfortable level that it isn't on par with an air raid siren blaring in our house. I wish I could say that the end result of Sarah's proposition was more satisfying, but it wasn't. Right after the loud blaring of dramatic choir music, I managed to catch what I presume was the FRICK! Subsequently followed by a heavy thud, then some smaller thuds. I guess that the music startled the cousin or auntie, and they tripped while trying to leave, but I don't know. The music is, as I said, really loud, and I had my headphones on because I didn't want my ears to be ringing for a while. According to Sarah, when she and the uncle questioned the auntie, she kept demanding to know what kind of games I'm playing, why I would play it so loud, and for what reason I would have to play the games in the first place. My auntie then accused me of ruining her nap and nearly giving her a heart attack in the process. When Sarah asked why she was trying to pick the lock, Sarah mentioned the 2 little statements I overheard. The auntie claimed to have no idea what Sarah was talking about, and that I was clearly hearing things if I played games at that volume all the time. The auntie demanded that I apologize to her and the cousin for having the TV at max volume and scaring the auntie like that, but my uncle immediately shot her down, telling her that if she ever dared to do that again, that he'd kick her out. When the auntie pointed out that he previously said he wouldn't hesitate to, the uncle said, "Well, if you prefer I immediately take the girls at their word when the door is right over there." Sarah then explained that the auntie wasted no time in trying to correct herself and apologizing, but the uncle brushed her off. The auntie did a lot more, but that's for another post when I get the time. Now you may be wondering why we wouldn't let the auntie or cousin into our room, why we didn't just move the Xbox into the living room. The reason is that Sarah and I have a very deep distrust towards anyone in general, double for anyone in our family, which was developed over the entirety of our time in high school, 5 years. When the uncle told us about the auntie's impending arrival, we really weren't sure what to think. To Sarah and I, our family is dead to us, so finding out that we had an auntie who hasn't disowned us was a bit of a shock. But we were not about to welcome them with open arms. The uncle made our views very clear to the auntie, and even went so far as to have her explain to Sarah that she understood our apprehensiveness. I couldn't bring myself to be there because of my anxiety about the whole situation, so Sarah explained it to me afterwards. So my auntie knew full well just why we were refusing to let either of them into our rooms, where we spent a vast majority of our time. With the auntie and cousin in the house, our room was the only place we could go to relax in peace, so we weren't about to let someone we only just met into our one place that we can call our own. I'll post some more stories about the auntie and cousin if anyone would like to see some more. Edit. For clarification, we think that the auntie was trying to pick the lock to our room so that the cousin could play on our Xbox, but we don't know for certain since the auntie has kept denying that she tried to in the first place. Sarah and I live with our uncle because our mother passed away. Our father, if one could ever call him that, is in jail where he belongs. Our family blames us for him being put in jail, hence why they've disowned the 2 of us. Please don't ask why he's in jail, I don't feel comfortable about talking to the things that he did to us. According to our uncle, the auntie explained that she hated how the family has treated us and wanted to see for herself if everything our family was saying was true. The uncle felt that the auntie wanted to be the voice of reason, so he allowed it. But, after everything she did during her stay, he won't be allowing it again anytime soon. Finally, I use sign language to communicate. I'm almost always with Sarah, so she translates for me. The uncle taught me how to use sign language and he taught Sarah too. Sarah is not mute. Some of you have asked for another post about the auntie and cousin. I'll try to make another post today, when I have the time, about when they got kicked out. I'll put a link to it in the post when I make it. Again, thank you everyone for your support and it means the world to us. Edit 5. Now, a couple of people have pointed out something I failed to add and I'm really sorry. Sarah and our uncle tried to meet the auntie and cousin halfway when he asked about the Xbox. I tried to come out to get to know the cousin because I felt that at least the cousin deserved a chance. I'm a big fan of Metroid and thought that Metroid would be good to talk with him. He said he would give it a shot, which is why we moved the Wii into the living room. However, it was obviously not enough. He went back to asking or insisting that he play the Xbox in our room, which is strictly off limits. Even the uncle doesn't come into our room. The uncle explained this, and so did Sarah, and both warned that he was close to crossing a lot of well-defined boundaries that we were explained when we first showed up. Which is why Sarah yelled at the cousin when she did. The cousin refused to listen to reason, but the uncle almost managed to reach a middle ground where we were fine with moving the Xbox into the living room. The next thing is something that I had difficulty with adding in, and just admitted it. The auntie became fed up with back and forth, she admitted it, and told us to grow up and get over your childish insecurities already. This was the first time that she crossed a line because remember that she had been told by the uncle why we were wary about her and the cousin. So she knew why we had these childish insecurities, as she so eloquently put. Insecurities that were forced onto us by her brother, our father, and her uncle made sure that she knew it since according to the uncle, she'd called him beforehand. Understand that we really did try as best we could. We have a hard time enough as it is to even go to see a therapist that was provided to us. So asking us to just casually trust two members that suddenly wants to understand our side of things from our family, that has made it their mission to harass us and at one point even tried to have our uncle arrested under false charges, but also tried to have me committed to a mental hospital, which would have effectively separated me and Sarah, which is something that our family knows would kill us. Our reluctance and general distrust towards the auntie and cousin is warranted. We did our best, but the auntie showed just how she really cared in that one statement. I hope this clears things up for everyone. Hey there guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to see some of my latest content, smash that big old box in the middle and subscribe for more background noise. Also, check out my new channel called Cobber, link in the description and in that card at the top right of the screen. With that said, this has been I Read Reddit and I'm signing off today. Hooroo, mate.